They are negotiating. They're begging to make a deal. They're begging to make a deal. Turned out I was right. They were negotiating, which they admitted 2 days later. And in order to make up for their misstatement, they said, we're going to send you 8 ships of oil. And the following day I saw, this is 2 days ago, I saw on one of the networks, very strange, there were 8 ships of oil coming out of Iran. And then they actually said, we're going to add an extra 2. And they added an extra 2, so we had 10 ships. And then people realized we were actually negotiating. And we're negotiating now, and it'd be great if we could do something, but they have to open it up. They have to open up the Strait of Hormuz. Excuse me for this. I'm so sorry. Such a terrible mistake. The fake news will say, he accidentally said, no. There's no accidents with me, not too many. If there were, we'd have a major story. No, well, we had that with the Gulf of Mexico. Remember the Gulf of Mexico? And one day I said, why is it the Gulf of Mexico? We have 92% of the area around it. They have 8%, really less than 8%. But for 350 years, it was good. You know, they were there 100 years longer than us, Mexico. They're at 350, we're at 250. And I said, I've often asked myself, why do we call it the Gulf of Mexico? It seems like we dominate. Well, when I checked, it was more than 92%. So I announced, I wouldn't say Mexico was thrilled, but I announced that from now on, the Gulf of Mexico is going to be called the Gulf of America. And it took about 1 hour and it was done. Everybody, the president called me. She's really a nice person too. I like her a lot. She called up. She had the most beautiful voice. She's a very elegant woman, has a beautiful, beautiful voice. She goes, President, tell me, this is not so. No, it's so. Oh, it's so. And then Google Maps changed it. We won the court case in about 1 hour, and Google Maps changed the name. And it's now the Gulf of America, which it should be in all fairness. We're crushing Iran's weapons stockpiles, destroying their missiles and drone factories at levels nobody ever thought was possible, and turning their defense industrial base into nothing. Iran's navy is gone. It's all sunk at the bottom of the Gulf and elsewhere. Did you see the attack submarine that we have, one after one of their boats? It was called the Soleimani. It was the pride of their fleet. But this attack submarine goes like 60 miles an hour. I'd never saw anything. And it caught them in about 2 minutes. And that was the end of the Soleimani. Now, then they're 100% dead. They have 22 mine droppers. They call them mine droppers. And the mine droppers, 22, all 22 are gone. So I guess they can drop mines, but they're going to have to take them out by a rowboat because they don't have any boats. Their Air Force is dead, totally, completely dead. It's out of business. No planes left at all. Their anti-aircraft and communications capabilities are totally dismantled and dead. And their leaders are all dead. Other than that, I think they're doing quite well. America became the world financial capital because we were the strongest and the freest nation on earth, and the Trump administration's going to keep it that way. We're very open. And I tell people, if you have problems, call me. And some of them are amazed. I actually take their call and get their problem solved. For 4 long years, our country was pushed to the brink of destruction by radicals and thugs and stupid people who punished success, pillaged our economy, dismantled our borders, and surrendered our strength. But today, all of that is behind us. Our country is prospering again, I think, like never before. I would say, it's amazing. I knew I'd do it. I didn't know I was going to do it. I had no idea it was going to be this fast. But you never know. I had no idea I'd be going into Iran. I didn't think we'd have to do that. But it turned out we did, because they became more and more radicalized and more threatening. Our economy is booming again, and America is respected again all over the world, perhaps like never before. With the help of business leaders, innovators, allies, and partners like those in this room, incredible people in this room, incredible success stories, the most successful people in the world. We'll seize every opportunity, overcome every challenge, defeat every threat, and America and our allies will thrive and prosper and win like no nations have ever won before. You're going to win like you've never had before. So I want to just thank everybody very much, and I'm asked to take a few questions. And unlike other politicians, they would like the questions screened. I don't ask for screening of the questions. You can ask me anything you want. You can talk sex. You can do whatever the hell you want. I'm here for you. Whatever question you want, you can ask. So do you want to do that? Do we have some people handling this? Here he comes. Look at this man. Very powerful man coming up, ladies and gentlemen. We'll take some questions. Good.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you so much. And thank you for accepting to take 5 questions. We don't want to take too much of your time. So let's talk about business. In one sentence, where should the world invest in America right now?
Say it, what?
Where should the world invest in America right now?
Well, look, the one that they're going crazy about is AI. Now, sometimes you'll say, let's go the opposite, because I've seen it. Everyone goes, but AI is going crazy. AI. So my family, we made Don, the whole family. Erica's doing a good job. All of us, Ivanka, we liked real estate. When you can make money in real estate, it's a great business, but I see some of these guys come into my office, they're wearing a T-shirt and they're 24 years old. Dad, he's got a net worth of $24 billion. I said, you gotta be kidding. Off a little contraption. So, but the money seems to be right now AI. And also, if you're in school, like you're going to the Wharton School or the Stern School or any of these great schools, the numbers that they're paying to go into that business is incredible, where you see people getting a $10 million bonus to sign, like baseball players or football players. We're giving you a $10 million. I hate to say because it sounds ridiculous, but there have been some $100 million bonuses paid to sign. So I think probably if you're going to say one thing, AI, and just hope that it works, right? You better hope.
So, Mr. President, what is the one leadership trait the world is missing right now? What is missing in leadership?
Well, it's winning. You got to win. I've watched a lot of people, leaders, great leaders. And, the one thing about sports is you break it down into, a 2-hour period, something nice. You don't have to wait a lifetime to find out is somebody a winner or a loser. You got a lot of losers, mostly losers, fortunately. It's a good thing to have a lot of losers. I always like to hang around with losers, actually, because it makes me feel better. I hate guys that are very, very successful and you have to listen to their success stories. I like people that like to listen to my success. But I find, and I found this, and I'm only kidding, I want to say that, sort of. But I find that people that win, it's much easier to lead when you're successful and you win. Vince Lombardi was a very tough person, a very tough football coach. He was sort of a violent guy, actually. I knew him. But he won, and he got away with things because he won. I used to say, if you win, winning helps you to become a better leader. People follow you if you win. And not everybody can win. Some people win, and some people don't win. But when you win, it's a lot easier to lead.
Talking about winning, Mr. President, the world is entering in a new economic era. Who do you think are the winners and who do you think will be the losers?
Are you talking about as nations?
Yes.
Well,
or sectors?
The United States right now is the hottest country anywhere in the world, by far. And we've done it very quickly because we have a good system. Now, it's somewhat radicalized because the Democrats are really holding us back, and you better hope they don't get in because they'll destroy a lot of what we've built. But right now, the United States, as the future king of Saudi Arabia said, we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. I must say, I respect China greatly because it's amazing that with a system that in theory shouldn't work, we go to school and we go to the best business schools and we do well in those schools. And we read about free entrepreneurship and we read about all of these different things. But you look at China, how well they do, how well they manufacture. They manufacture cars so many that they actually have a contest for who can manufacture the least cars because they have so many cars. You have to have great respect for China for the job they do. Like them or not like them, you have to respect them.
So precisely, you will be going to China in May.
Yes, I'll be going. We had a meeting and I called up President Xi. I get along really well with him. He even approved the TikTok deal. He said, I will not approve that deal to other people, not to me. And I thought it was good if we could keep it going. I like it because I'm the #1 person on TikTok. Can you believe it? I put a chart up there, another chart. You want to put another chart up? Like we did with fake news, CNN. I said, let's see what happens. So we got a group of very big investors, the biggest investors, and they really wanted to buy TikTok. And I did very well on TikTok in the election. I won the youth. I did tremendously well with youth because of TikTok and other things, certain interviews, etc. But I did very well. And I sort of developed a liking for it. And I was told that it will never be approved by China. You had to get approval. And I didn't really care. And then it got to a point where all of these very successful people were willing to pay a lot of money for TikTok. And I called up President Xi. I said, do me a favor. Will you approve it, please? It's good. It's good for China, good for us, good for everybody. Would you do me a favor? I know you said it was a hard no. And I said, I know you said no to everybody, but you haven't said no to me. Would you do me a favor? Would you approve it? It's good for China. It's good for us. You have a lot of big investors. They're investing in China also. They have a lot of money in China. I would appreciate it. He said, okay, I'll do it. Nice. It was very nice. And they bought TikTok, and it's going to do good. And it was done with the consent of China. We get along well with China. China used to take big advantage of us, but they don't take advantage of us anymore. Now we compete very nicely with China. We put tariffs on China. The tariffs got too high. At one point, they were up to 145%. I was saying, nope, put tariffs on that, put tariffs on for fentanyl, add 20%. And then one day I said, what's China paying now? Sir, they're paying 145%. I said, 145? That's crazy. I got a little carried away. So I got them down to 100. Then I took them down a little more. And I'll never forget, I took them down a little bit from 145 to 100. And the fake news said, Donald Trump collapses on China. They're paying 100%. Nobody pays 100. So anyway, we got it down. And now we have a great business relationship with China. I've always had a good relationship with President Xi, except for the COVID situation, because I wasn't thrilled about that. He wasn't thrilled either, by the way, but I wasn't thrilled. But I have great respect for him as a leader. And we had a deal. I was going there, and I didn't want to go during the war. I said, look, we have a thing called a war, or as they would rather say, a military operation. This is for legal reasons. I say military because as a military operation, I don't need any approvals. As a war, you're supposed to get approval from Congress, something like that. So I call it a military operation, but we have that going along, and I'd like to delay it. So we delayed it a few weeks. So I'll be going very shortly.
Mr. President, we have few leaders here, business leaders from Africa. And of course, we have His Excellency, the President of Sierra Leone. What is your vision about Africa today?
Well, I tell you, it's got tremendous potential. Now, I've been hearing about this for a very long time, and I have a lot of friends that have bet the ranch on Africa. They're very smart. It's got tremendous earth. It's got tremendous value underground, which is a very important. So do we. So does America. We have the most oil and gas and coal and everything of any nation on earth. It's a big advantage. But Africa has tremendous value in its land. And if they can unify and get together, I think it's got tremendous potential. I have a lot of very smart friends that they're putting everything into Africa.
What do you think, Mr. President, is today the biggest mistake that leaders are making right now?
Not sticking together. I think that NATO made a terrible mistake when they wouldn't send a small amount of military armament, when they wouldn't send just even acknowledge what we were doing for the world and taking on Iran. I never considered it very risky, but war is always risk. A lot of strange things happen in war that are very bad, but but I didn't consider it. I know how great I am. We're the greatest military by far anywhere. There was nobody close. I didn't think there was a big risk, but there's always surprises with war. They can be very bad surprises. I mean, wars are lost. It should be won. Many wars are lost. You think a country is going to wipe somebody out and they end up getting wiped out themselves. So it's always risky. But I think a tremendous mistake was when NATO just wasn't there. They just weren't there. It's going to make a lot of money for the United States because we spend hundreds of billions of dollars a year on NATO, hundreds of protecting them. And we would have always been there for them. But now, based on their actions, I guess we don't have to be, do we?
Mr. President.
That sounds like a breaking story, yes, sir. Is that breaking news? I think we just have breaking news. But that's the fact. I've been saying that. Why would we be there for them if they're not there for us? They weren't there for us.
If you had one bet on the future, what would it be?
That the United States will, with good leadership, remain the dominant country anywhere in the world. But you still need leadership. I mean, look at the last 4 years were so bad with the bad leader. You need leadership. And, in theory, you need to have that. You need the open, fair elections. You need a free press. We have a terrible press. We have a very corrupt media. Think of it. I got 96% negative stories, and I won in a landslide. And you know what that means? That means that the media has no credibility. You can't get mostly bad stories, fake stories. They were fake. The polls are fake. That's why I appreciate that one poll that I saw up there at 100%. She's never seen 100%. Nobody has. But you have to have a free and open media. And when a media can give you 96 to 97% bad stories, they write stories about it. Trump received 97% bad stories, and I won in a landslide. And that means very simply that the media has no credibility because that can't happen. Now, I also have a voice more than most people. I can come up and talk about it and convince people without necessarily reading the New York Times, which is fake. I mean, if you read the New York Times, you would think we're doing badly against Iran. Remember, they have no Navy, wiped out. 159 ships at the bottom of the sea in 3 days. They have no Air Force, all wiped out. They have very few missiles left. Their drones are at a minimum. Their factories are gone. Their leaders are gone. The leaders are all dead. They're all dead. Nobody ever heard of the people that are left. And if you read the Times, you think we're doing poorly. It's almost treasonous, I have to be honest. It's almost treasonous. But fortunately, we have other media that's fair and honest and honorable. And you have to go out and do some of your own talking because nobody else will. You know the expression? I have to sell myself because nobody else will.
My last question, Mr. President, is the same question I asked you last year. What do you want your legacy to be?
Well, I'll tell you what. So I told you that I settled 8 wars. That means millions and millions of people. And some of those wars were going on. One was 34 years. One was 32 years. One was 29 years. One was 22 years. They were long-term wars and a lot of people being killed every year. So I've saved millions and millions of people. And I mean, I know it doesn't sound right for me to say this, but I'd love my legacy to be made as a great peacemaker, because I really believe I'm a peacemaker. It doesn't seem it right now, but I think I'm a peacemaker. Okay?